All right, everybody. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to set up a throttle cut on our Outlaw aircraft. This throttle cut will also apply for the FT Explorer, other planes, and then I'll have a second video after this one that goes over the failsafe. So these are two parts of your assignments in class: to set up a throttle cut and a failsafe on our planes before we fly them, and that's to help the aircraft to be safe on the ground when you're bumping the sticks on accident. It doesn't spin up the motor. And it's also to help the plane be safe in the air. If you lose connection for some reason, the plane doesn't just fly off into the sunset. So we're going to start with throttle cut first. I'm sorry for the weird orientation here. I can't flip my camera the right way and have the screen not be backwards when I zoom in. So I'm going to be doing this upside down, but you can watch in the normal orientation once I zoom in on the camera. So I have my Outlaw here. I have the prop removed. We always want to have a propeller removed here for any of these kind of setup and testing to make sure we don't spin up on accident and hurt someone. I'm going to plug in my battery here. The plane booted up. Okay. So we can see right now, if I move my throttle, okay, nothing happens to the plane's motor, right? But if I flip the switch back here, now I can see the motor is working. Okay, so that's my throttle cut / arm switch. Now I can move my servos and stuff anytime, but the throttle won't work unless I flip the switch. And that's what we're going to set up in this video. Okay, so I'm going to move the plane out of the way a little bit so we can zoom in onto the transmitter, and I'll try to navigate this with you guys upside down. All right, so we get this to the right way here. Okay, so right around there is probably pretty good. Okay, so in the transmitter, here's my Outlaw250 model, right? So I'm going to go ahead and press the model key, long press that key, and it's going to get me to this page of my models. I can then page over. We did some setup with this earlier when you're building the plane, as far as setting up the ailerons and elevator going the right direction and stuff like that. We're going to go into that sort of menu a little bit as well to set this arm / throttle cut switch up. Okay, so we're going to go over to the, let's see here, where it says flight modes up there at the top. We're going to go till it says mixes. Okay, and we're going to go down to channel 5. So let's scroll down here, and we're going to go ahead and long press on 5. Now you won't have anything there yet. I've already set mine up, but yours will be blank. You're going to long press with the scroll wheel, okay, and then select edit. All right. Now what this is doing is saying, hey, transmitter, I want you to transmit some information on channel 5, and I want to control channel 5 with what? A switch, a slider, what am I going to use to control it, okay? So you can name your mix here. I just called mine arm. Let's see, my fingers are backwards here too for my brain here. Arm and throttle, so it's an arm switch / throttle cut switch. It arms the aircraft, and if I flip it off, it'll cut the throttle. So you can name whatever you want. I put mine as THO for throttle. You don't even have to name it if you don't want to. We're going to go down to source right here, and we're going to select that with our scroll wheel. So select, okay, and then it starts blinking. At this point, you're going to move whatever switch you want to on your radio to use for an arm switch. In my case, I like using my left-hand switch up here on the top, so SE, okay? You can hear my motor spinning over there. That's why we don't have a prop on, right? Okay. You can use any switch you want, though. I'm not sure how the momentary buttons would work. That would probably work. I'd have to do some more fiddling with that. I've always used a switch, but I would recommend using a 2 or 3 position switch for this kind of thing. And so if we go and we flip this switch, okay, as we do that, oops, as we do that, we see that it selects that switch. If I were to flip a different one, it would select a different switch, SB, but I actually want SE, so we make sure we flip that switch. And once we've done that, we can just hit return, okay, and return back. And you should have, all the way back to this page, you should have all 5 of these now. And it will show the switch there along with the name if you named the mix. Okay, if I go off of this, it shows the name right there, ATHO. When you're on it, it doesn't display the name for some reason. I don't know why, but when you go off of it with your scroll wheel, it does show the name right there. Okay. All right, so that's the first part of it. That allows channel 5 to be sent on the switch. Okay, so that's good because Express LRS needs you to arm on a switch anyway, so this is good for our setup. But to actually have the throttle be cut or not work when you flip the switch, we have to do something else. So we're going to go over page over here, and I'm going to go over past outputs, curves, logical switches to special functions. Okay, I have 3 different functions in here right now. You may have heard when I flip the switch, the radio talks a little bit. So I get the mic closer to it. Let's try. Oops, I'm getting in the way of the video.
Engine off. Engine off.
Okay, so hopefully you can hear that. I think you should be able to in the video. So the audio engine off armed is optional. You don't have to do that for this setup. It's kind of fun to have your radio, talk to you, I guess. But the important one here is this first line. So when you see this page, it will probably be all blank. It'll just look like these lines down here below, okay? But what you do is you just go to one of these lines, just like on the other mixer menu. You long press with the scroll wheel, okay? And then you flip a switch or something you want to use to control this special function. So if I flip SB, oops, I got to select it first. So it's blinking. SB, it'll say SB, okay, great. And I put it in the position that I want it to be in to do whatever I want it to do. So in this case, on my radio, I like my switches to be away from me. Is kind of the safe position, the default position. Everything is away from me in that direction, if that makes sense. So down here, up, I guess towards the top of the radio, if that makes sense. That's what I like as my default. You may have a different default, that's fine. Whatever you want to use is what you need to set in the menu here. So let's go back into the, okay. And so if I want my switch to be in a certain position, okay, then I flip it into that position, and then I press my scroll wheel. Right? And it stops blinking. I move my scroll wheel over one. Oops. Sorry, I'm gonna keep it blinking and then move it over. Come on. Why is that not working? Let's see here. Is it the... No, that wasn't it. That's strange. I thought it was... I just did this a second ago. Sorry, guys. Hold on just a second. All right. Let's go... No, I don't want to edit it. How come I can't select that? Huh. Okay, let me try one more time here. Doesn't help I'm doing this upside down. Let's go over to the special functions. Okay. So we say here, and then we roll. There we go. Okay, sorry. For some reason, the scroll wheel was skipping that second column there where it says override. So once you have your switch selected here, then you click it with the scroll wheel so it stops blinking, and then roll over to the next column there where it says override. So override is one of the special functions. Okay, if I select the override with the scroll wheel as I'm clicking on it, you can roll through a bunch of different special functions that you might be interested in. Override's a pretty common one, so it pops up kind of first, I think, a lot of the time. But we're going to use override in this case. We want this switch to basically override the signals that our throttle stick usually gives and override it in a certain way. So I'm going to click on override. Okay. Now, which channel do I want to override? In our case, channel 3 is throttle, so we don't want to override channel 1, we want to override channel 3. Okay, so I'm going to roll over and then select that and say channel 3. And I select that. Okay. Now I want it to override in such a manner that when the switch is flipped, the throttle goes to negative 100 because that's basically zero throttle. Okay. So I'm going to actually change this so the motor doesn't spin up real quick, but you want to use channel 3. Okay, I'm going to move over to the 0 and go to, oops, sorry, let me go back there. Go to the 0 and go to negative 100. It's actually moving my servo right now. You might be able to hear it on the camera. Okay, there's negative 100. I would select that, and then I would make sure this little checkbox was checked here because that turns the special function on. Okay, so you can hear my servo move there. Right now the special function's off. Right now it's on. Okay, but I would be able to control it with this switch. So you can see as I flip the SB switch, you can see it highlight there. Okay, right there. Off, on, off, on. Okay. So that is allowing me to control and override channel 2 with the SB switch in the down position. And when I flip it down, it gives it a negative 100 value, and I've turned it on. Okay. So very similar to what I did up here, a little bit above. I'm going to turn that servo off real quick. Up here, I'm going to return once. Okay. Up here, the first line item. So I had SE, which is switch I wanted to use for my arming switch. That's the same switch I used in the mixer page over here. I'm going to use the same switch for both of these. So if you use SE here on channel 5, you should use SE here on the special functions. Okay, we're going to override channel 3 to negative 100. Okay, and then we're going to make sure we turn it on. All right. Once you've done that, you're pretty much done. You should be able to flip that switch, no propeller on, right? Flip your motor kill switch, and your throttle shouldn't work. Okay? My throttle doesn't work like I showed you in the beginning of the video. If I flip it on, okay, you're just going to hear my motor there in the background. All right. These other two ones here just have to do with if you want the radio to talk to you or not. Okay? There's a set of tracks or little audio clips in Edge TX you can use. By default, you can actually make your own custom tracks if you want to. That's kind of a fun thing. You can customize your radio to have it say different things for different functions. But here in these two lines, here and here, I'm just going to erase this one real quick. Just clear that. There we go. That didn't clear it. That was weird. Okay, there we go. So these two here, play track and play track, have to do with the position of the switch. Again, so you can see the little arrows next to the SE there, facing up or down. So you can see when the switch is flipped away from me, which is the top position. Okay, that's my safe position. Engine's not armed. The throttle's not armed. That arrow is pointing up, and so this next one is also pointing up. So whenever the switch is pointing up, okay, I have the engine, the throttle's cut, the engine's off, and it tells me that by saying play track and picking engine off as the audio file there. Okay. Now I have it play engine off every 60 seconds. You can change the interval of that if you'd like to have it play more frequently. Okay. And then down here you see on the next line over I have the opposite direction of the arrow, and it's going to say armed. So when I flip the switch on, the motor's hot. Armed, okay? And since I don't have an interval there, I didn't select a time, it just says it one time. I don't really want it to say armed over and over and over while I'm flying the plane because I know it's armed, obviously. But it's a good thing maybe, if you think so, to have it say engine off multiple times, just kind of so it confirms that your engine's off, makes people aware the engine's off. If you want to have it say that, that's fine as well. You could do even more special functions. You could have it say armed, and then you could have it not say armed anymore once you're over a certain throttle threshold. So once you're flying, basically, that would be kind of cool to have it say armed all the time. It's armed if it's sitting on the ground, but once you get your throttle above a certain percent, it stops saying armed. That could be a really good safety feature. So if people approach the plane, they know it's armed because they hear the radio saying that. Say if you set it on the table or something. But all of these audio plane tracks things are optional for the class. You don't have to set those up, but you do need to set this first one up so that the throttle actually has a throttle kill or throttle cut switch there. Okay, that works. That's part of the assignment. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. You can, like I said, have some fun with the audio tracks if you want to. But at a minimum, you need to have the throttle cut in there as far as this channel, as well as going back over here to our mixer, having channel 5 set up as a switch that controls channel 5, basically. Okay, so that's really important for what we're doing with Express LRS. If you're using a different radio system, you may be able to use a different channel other than 5, but if you're using Express LRS, just use channel 5 for this whole setup. All right, I'll see you in the next video talking about failsafe.